She raised her glass before anyone could take another bite of cake. The room obeyed her without question. It was my birthday. Candles were still burning, wax folding into itself. Someone had written my name wrong in the icing, then fixed it by scraping the letter thinner. She smiled and said she had a gift that finally made sense of me. Then she laughed. Maybe this will explain why you're another man's mistake. She slid a small white box across the table. A DNA test. Laughter landed unevenly. A clap. A sharp breath. Someone said my name like a warning. I didn't move. I looked at the box. I looked at her face, confident, careless, already enjoying the version of this story she planned to repeat. My hands stayed still. That surprised people more than the insult. Before I tell you what happened next, stay with me for a moment. If you're listening, tap like if you've ever kept the peace by staying quiet. Tell me where you're listening from. And answer this honestly, have you ever been humiliated by someone who knew you wouldn't react? My name is Gracie. I'm in my early 30s. For most of my life, I've been underestimated because I don't make noise. That night, everyone decided what my silence meant. Shock? Shame? Defeat? My sister decided it meant permission. I thanked her. I said I'd open it later. My voice sounded normal. Too normal. My mother stared at her plate. My father cleared his throat and talked about dessert. The moment passed for them. It didn't pass for me. I've always been the one who notices what others miss. Not because I'm quiet, because I'm present. I remember dates. I keep records. I finish things. When something needs doing without drama, it finds me. Being dependable made me invisible. It also put me everywhere that mattered. In the days after my birthday, the joke didn't end. It traveled. My sister told it like a harmless story. Then like a suspicion she'd always had. Then like a truth she'd finally forced into the open. Each time, she added something new. Each time, someone else heard it. She didn't notice who stopped laughing first. At home, my parents changed. Not toward her. Toward me. My mother asked gentle questions she didn't need answers to. My father avoided being alone with me. They were protecting something. I didn't ask what. Pressure makes people lie. Space makes them restless. I took the DNA test exactly as instructed. I sealed the envelope myself. I mailed it myself. Then I went back to my routine. Work. Errands. Family logistics no one else wanted. Keeping things moving made everyone comfortable. Comfort makes people careless. My sister grew bolder. She started speaking about the future like it was settled. Who would handle what? Who would decide what? She spoke with certainty that didn't belong to her. She spoke publicly. She spoke often. Confidence like that leaves a trail. I stayed useful. Emails started coming to me directly. Documents landed on my desk. When questions came from banks or advisors, my number was already saved. No one asked why. They were used to relying on me. Reliance creates records. Records remember everything. Weeks passed. The DNA results arrived in a plain envelope. I didn't open it. Not yet. I wanted the room ready before the truth walked in. One afternoon, the family lawyer asked if I could stop by to clarify a few things. His tone was neutral. Professional. Not urgent. I said yes. I didn't tell anyone about the call. I didn't need to. By then, the story my sister was telling had grown loud enough to believe it was finished. It wasn't. That birthday wasn't the moment I broke. It was the moment I stopped being overlooked. After my birthday, life didn't change in any dramatic way. There were no arguments, no late-night confrontations, no sudden confessions. That disappointed some people. They were waiting for a reaction. I gave them consistency instead. I showed up to family dinners on time. I listened. I nodded. I let my sister retell the story. She liked having an audience. She liked deciding when it was a joke and when it was a truth. Each time she told it, the room reacted a little differently. A laugh that ended too quickly. A glance toward my parents. A silence that stayed longer than it should have. She noticed none of it. She started framing herself as the responsible one. The future caretaker. The person who would handle things when the time came. She spoke like decisions had already been made. Like her confidence was proof enough. People didn't challenge her. They didn't have to. They just remembered. At home, my parents moved carefully around me. My mother offered help I hadn't asked for. My father avoided my eyes when the conversation drifted too close to my birthday. Neither of them mentioned the DNA test. That silence was intentional. It told me more than answers would have. I didn't confront them. I didn't need reassurance. I needed clarity. So I paid attention. I noticed how often my sister corrected people on things she didn't actually manage. I noticed how freely she spoke about finances she didn't oversee. I noticed how comfortable she was making assumptions out loud. Assumptions become liabilities when they're repeated. I stayed useful. When documents needed organizing, I did it. When appointments conflicted, I rescheduled them. When advisors needed information, they reached out to me because I responded quickly and followed through. No one questioned why I was included. It felt natural. That was the point. Emails started arriving with my name already on them. I was copied into conversations that used to happen without me. I didn't push for it. I let the shift happen on its own. Access doesn't need to be demanded. It just needs to be earned. My sister's confidence grew louder as mine stayed quiet. She joked publicly about belonging. About bloodlines. About how awkward it must be to discover you're standing in the wrong place. Some people laughed out of habit. Others didn't laugh at all. I watched my parents during those moments. My mother's smile would tighten. My father would change the subject too quickly. Their reactions didn't match the story my sister was telling. That gap mattered. The DNA results sat unopened in my drawer. I knew they were there. I knew what they would say. I didn't need paper to tell me who I was. Timing mattered more than certainty. One afternoon, the family lawyer asked if I had time for a brief meeting. He said he needed to verify a few things. His questions were simple. Dates. Responsibilities. Who handled what? I answered calmly. Honestly. Without emotion. At the end of the call, there was a pause. Then he thanked me for being thorough. That word stayed with me. My sister remained unaware. She kept talking. She kept performing. She believed the story was settled. People only get careless when they think they've already won. By then, I wasn't waiting for the truth to come out. I was preparing the room for it. The lawyer didn't call back right away. That delay mattered. People assume important things arrive loudly. Urgent emails. Missed calls. Panic. This didn't. It arrived quietly, like a door being unlocked somewhere I hadn't been standing before. In the meantime, my sister became bolder. She started using the word future a lot. The future house. The future decisions. The future responsibilities she claimed she already carried. She said it casually, like it was obvious. Like everyone else was just catching up to what she already knew. At a family gathering, she raised her glass and joked about how birthdays reveal who really belongs. She looked straight at me when she said it. I met her eyes. I smiled once. Then I looked away. That moment confused her. She wanted anger. She wanted embarrassment. She wanted proof that the joke still worked. My calm took that away. After that, she started explaining herself more. Over-talking. Repeating details no one had questioned. When people do that, it's not confidence. It's pressure leaking out. A week later, my father asked me to help him find some old paperwork. Deeds. Trust drafts. Things he said he couldn't remember where he'd put. I found them quickly. I always did. As I handed them over, he hesitated. He said my name softly, like he wanted to say something else and decided against it. Then he thanked me. That hesitation stayed with me. I didn't tell him about the lawyer's call. I didn't tell anyone. Information loses power when it's shared too early. Silence lets other people reveal themselves. My sister, meanwhile, had started telling extended family members that I was sorting things out and would probably be moving on soon. New life. Fresh start. She framed it as concern. Concern that didn't ask me anything. Someone messaged me privately to ask if I was okay. Another asked if the rumors were true. I replied the same way every time. I'm fine. That answer frustrates people who want drama. It gives them nothing to repeat. Then the lawyer called again. He asked me to come in person this time. He said it would be better if we spoke face to face. He said it wasn't an emergency, but it was important. Important is a careful word. It means something is already decided, and now it just needs to be handled correctly. I went alone. His office was quiet. No rush. No tension. He asked about my work, my schedule, whether I was comfortable being involved in family matters going forward. Not hypothetically. Practically. I answered the same way I always had. Calm. Clear. Direct. Then he asked if anyone had ever explained my legal standing to me. That question landed differently. I said no. Not fully. He nodded, like that confirmed something he'd already suspected. He explained, slowly, that certain assumptions had been made in the family. Assumptions that were never formally documented. Never verified. Never challenged. Assumptions are fragile things. They only survive when no one checks them. He didn't mention my sister by name. He didn't need to. He talked about roles. Authority. Representation. Who had been acting, and who had actually been authorized. Those two things are not the same. He told me there would be a meeting soon. All parties present. He said it would be best if I attended. Not as support. As context. I asked one question. Just one. Do I need to prepare anything? He smiled slightly and said no. Everything that mattered was already on record. That's when I understood. This wasn't about what I could prove. It was about what everyone else had already shown. At home, my sister was in a good mood. Too good. She talked about plans that included rooms I hadn't agreed to leave. She talked about responsibilities she hadn't been given. She talked like the ground under her feet was permanent. People don't check the floor when they're sure it won't move. She made one more joke about the DNA test. Said she was still waiting for results, like it was a shared joke between us. I told her I hadn't taken it yet. That surprised her. She blinked. Asked why not. I said I hadn't needed to. That answer bothered her more than anger ever could. She laughed it off, but her eyes stayed on me longer than before. Something wasn't lining up anymore. A few days later, the meeting was scheduled. The word urgent wasn't used, but everyone rearranged their calendars anyway. That alone told me enough. People don't move their lives for jokes. I watched the group chat light up. Questions. Speculation. My sister reassuring everyone it was probably procedural. Routine. Nothing to worry about. She sounded confident. Almost practiced. I didn't say anything. The night before the meeting, I finally opened the drawer and took out the DNA test. I held it for a moment. Not because I doubted it, but because I wanted to be sure of myself. Then I put it back. Some truths don't need to be open to be powerful. They just need the right room. The meeting was scheduled for mid-morning. Neutral time. No rush. No excuses. When something is truly routine, people don't rehearse for it. My sister did. She arrived early. I could tell because she'd already claimed the seat closest to the lawyer, like proximity meant authority. She was dressed carefully. Confident colors. Controlled smile. The kind of presentation people wear when they expect to be affirmed. I walked in last. Not dramatically. Not late enough to be noticed. Just late enough to interrupt her momentum. She glanced up, surprised. Not because I was there, but because I looked comfortable. Comfort unsettles people who are pretending. The lawyer greeted everyone politely. He didn't start right away. He let the small talk run its course. Weather. Traffic. A harmless comment about birthdays coming up this season. My sister laughed too loudly at that. Then he closed the folder in front of him. The room shifted. Not suddenly. Slowly. Like air pressure changing. He began by explaining why we were there. Estate clarity. Representation. Legal accuracy. He used words that sounded neutral but weren't. Each sentence removed a layer of assumption my sister had been standing on. She nodded along at first. She always did when adults spoke formally. It made her feel included. Then he said my name. He asked me to confirm a few things. Simple confirmations. Dates. Responsibilities. Who had been communicating with whom over the past year. I answered calmly. Clearly. No emotion. Each answer landed like a weight. My sister leaned back, arms crossed, still relaxed. Still smiling. She believed this was procedural. She believed the room belonged to her. Then the lawyer turned to her. He asked her when she'd been formally appointed to act on behalf of the family. Not informally. Not assumed. Formally. She laughed lightly. Said it had always been understood. That everyone knew. That she'd handled things for years. He nodded once. Then asked for documentation. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was precise. She searched her memory first. Then her phone. Then my parents' faces. My mother's hands folded tighter in her lap. My father stared at the table like it might offer him an exit. The lawyer didn't rush her. He waited. Waiting is power when you already know the answer. When she couldn't produce anything, he thanked her and moved on. Just like that. No confrontation. No accusation. Removal without drama. Then he explained something she hadn't expected to hear. He said that in the absence of formal designation, responsibility defaults to the individual who has been consistently managing communication, documentation, and compliance. He said my name again. This time, she didn't smile. Her body shifted. She leaned forward now, suddenly interested. She interrupted him to ask what that meant. He told her calmly. It meant that legally, I had been acting in the role she believed was hers. And that role carried authority. She laughed again, sharper this time. Said there must be some confusion. Said there was a reason she'd questioned my place in the family. She brought up the DNA test. She said it casually. Like a punchline she'd already landed once before. The room froze. The lawyer didn't react emotionally. He adjusted his glasses and asked her to repeat what she'd said. She did. Slower this time. Louder. He nodded, then asked if anyone else in the room had questioned my parentage formally. No one spoke. He asked if any legal action had ever been taken to establish or dispute my standing. Again, silence. Then he said something my sister wasn't prepared for. He said that questioning someone's legitimacy without evidence doesn't weaken their position. It strengthens it. Because it reveals intent. And intent leaves a record. She looked at me then. Really looked at me. For the first time, she wasn't sure which version of me she was seeing. The lawyer hadn't even reached the main point yet. But the ground under her confidence had already started to move. And she could feel it. She tried to recover quickly. I'll give her that. She straightened her posture, smoothed her jacket, and said she'd only meant it as a joke. Family humor. Nothing serious. She even smiled at my parents, like she was inviting them to laugh along and reset the moment. No one did. The lawyer didn't argue with her explanation. He didn't need to. He simply acknowledged it and moved forward. That was worse for her. Being ignored feels like erasure when you're used to control. He explained that the purpose of the meeting wasn't emotional reconciliation. It was legal clarity. And that clarity required addressing recent actions, not intentions. He referenced emails, meeting notes, authorizations, patterns of behavior. Patterns don't lie. They just accumulate. He stated, very calmly, that based on documented involvement, I was now the primary point of contact for the estate. Effective immediately. Temporary at first. Reviewable later. But real. My sister blinked. Once. Twice. She looked at my parents like this was the moment they were supposed to step in. Correct the mistake. Restore the balance. They didn't. My mother's eyes were wet, but she stayed silent. My father nodded once, slowly, like he was accepting something he'd avoided for too long. That nod changed everything. My sister's voice sharpened. She asked how that made sense if there were still questions about me. About where I came from. About blood. She said the word like it was currency. The lawyer asked her if she had proof. She said she had the test. She didn't. She had handed it to me. She had never followed up. Never verified. Never checked. She had assumed the existence of doubt was enough. The lawyer turned to me and asked, gently, if I'd taken it. I said no. That answer landed harder than a yes ever could. He asked if I planned to. I said not unless it was legally necessary. He nodded and explained to the room that without a dispute filed, the test was irrelevant. Legally meaningless. Emotionally provocative, but powerless. Powerless things only work when people believe in them. My sister looked stunned. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her confidence had nowhere to land anymore. Every angle she tried to stand on had been removed quietly, one by one. Then the lawyer addressed something else. Something she didn't even know was being discussed. He said there were concerns about reputational risk. Statements made publicly. Jokes framed as facts. Language that could be interpreted as exclusionary or defamatory. He said those concerns had been noted. Not threatened. Not exaggerated. Noted. My sister laughed nervously and said she was family. That she'd never hurt anyone intentionally. The lawyer responded with a sentence that felt final. Impact doesn't require intent. The room went very still after that. He concluded by saying the next steps would be handled through me. Communication would be streamlined. Decisions documented. No unilateral actions. No assumptions. Everything clean. Everything correct. The meeting ended without drama. No raised voices. No slammed doors. Just chairs moving back. Papers being gathered. A sense of something irreversible having already happened. My sister didn't look at me as we stood up. She avoided my eyes like they might confirm something she wasn't ready to accept. That she had lost control not because I fought her, but because I never needed to. In the hallway, my parents stopped me. My mother reached for my hand but hesitated, like she wasn't sure she had the right anymore. My father cleared his throat and said my name. Just my name. No qualifiers. That was enough. Behind us, my sister stood alone, staring at her phone, refreshing something that wasn't going to change. For the first time, the story she'd told about me had no audience left. And the quiet that followed her confidence was louder than any apology she could have offered. The days after the meeting were quiet. Not the uncomfortable kind, the settled kind. The kind that comes when something false has finally stopped being repeated. My sister didn't call. She didn't text. She didn't joke anymore. Her silence wasn't strategic. It was unfamiliar territory. When someone builds their identity on being unquestioned, the moment questions arrive, they don't know where to stand. I stepped into the role slowly. Not to prove anything. Just to do what I'd already been doing, carefully, consistently, without noise. Emails were forwarded to me. Decisions came through me. The tone around me changed. Not warmer. More respectful. No one asked me about the DNA test again. A week later, I took it out of the drawer one last time. I held it, not with curiosity, but with closure. Then I threw it away, unopened. Some truths don't need confirmation. They've already revealed everything they were meant to. My parents and I talked, not all at once, and not dramatically. In fragments. In moments between ordinary things. They apologized without defending themselves. They listened without correcting me. That mattered more than explanations. As for my sister, she eventually tried to rewrite what happened. She said she'd gone too far. That she'd been stressed. That she hadn't realized how things would land. I didn't argue with her. I didn't agree either. Because the point was never to humiliate her. The point was to let the truth stand where the joke used to be. She lost her authority quietly. Not because it was taken, but because it was never hers to begin with. People stopped deferring to her. Stopped assuming. Stopped repeating her version of the story. And I stayed exactly the same. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't change my posture. I didn't become someone else to earn respect. I just kept showing up as the person I'd always been, the one paying attention while others performed. That's the part people misunderstand about patience. It isn't waiting. It's preparing without announcing it. If there's one thing I learned from all of this, it's that humiliation only has power when you accept the role it assigns you. The moment you refuse to react, the script collapses. I wasn't another man's mistake. I was the one who stayed quiet long enough to see the whole board. And when the truth finally spoke, it didn't need my voice at all.